I'm Jared, and this is an introduction to Bambooda, which is my game submission to the first annual DFW Nerd Nighters game competition. Alright, this is take 6 or 7. At this point I've lost count. Turns out doing a rules video is much harder than I anticipated, so please don't mind me shuffling through my rule book. Alright, even though I am the designer of the game, know it inside and out, it turns out I always miss something, so I'm just going to be heavily relying on these pages as I go through this demo. Okay, let's just jump right into the components. First is the magnetic deck box, which is going to house all the components. First thing out of that box is the cloth bag, which is an optional component in the game. As we dump everything out of there, the most critical aspect of this game is going to be represented by the punchboard tokens, the panda face / silhouette and the cardboard token there. Next we've got 4 of the colored cubes. We've got black, yellow, red, and purple, all of the colors I received except blue. We've got the panda meeple, the gold bar, the brick, the dragon coin, and the 2 dice. In addition to those components, we're also going to be using a deck of 60 cards and 4 player reference cards. Bambooda is a game for 2 to 4 players, so there are up to 4 reference cards. Alright, the object, the point of Bambooda is to score the most points. The way you score points is by building the most magnificent temple to the great Bambooda. In the mythology of the Bambooda game, Bambooda is a panda lord who is reigning over your region of the bamboo forest. Since he desires his subjects to build a temple to him, the subject that can build the greatest temple will be declared the winner. There are 3 ways to score points, and we'll get into them more a little later on, but the 3 ways to score points are by every card that you use in the construction of your temple is going to have an inherent value. You're going to add up those values. That's the first way to earn points. The second way is by completing layers of the temple. There are 4 layers to a perfect temple: a brick layer, a gold layer, a dragon layer, and a panda layer. The more layers you complete, the more points you score. And then the final way to earn points is by completing or by connecting chambers of light colors together. So there are 5 colors on the cards. Every card has 1 or 2 colors on it, and the more colors you are able to connect together, the more points you are able to score. Alright, now we'll get more into that later, like I said, because that is phase 2 of the game. Bambooda is a game played in 2 phases. The first phase is called the Bamboo Ballyhoo, where players attempt to collect the most possible bamboo, which is going to be then used as currency in the second phase to buy resources and materials to construct their temple. Alright, the setup for phase 1 goes like this. You've got your deck of 60 cards. You're going to shuffle that up and place it face down. You're going to then draw the top 12 cards off of it and set them up in a grid. The grid is going to be 4 by 3, 4 columns by 3 rows. And as you're setting this grid up, one thing to take note of is the panda silhouette on each card. The panda silhouette should be placed on the bottom side of each card. And alright, there's your grid. Let me talk a little bit about the cards for just a second, since they are the component used to set up the grid. Alright, every card is going to be both dual use and dual sided. What I mean by dual use is that it is used in both phase 1 and phase 2. What I mean by dual sided is every card has a top and a bottom side. The bottom side, like I mentioned, is represented by the panda silhouette featured here. Alright, so once you've got your card face up, with the top on the top and the bottom on the bottom, you can see a couple things. The top of the card has one color, the bottom of the card has another color. The top of the card has one number value, the bottom of the card has a different number value. And then right in the middle of the card is going to be the resource for that card. All right, the numbers on the cards in phase 1 indicate the amount of bamboo you receive for that card. So if you were to take the top side of this card, it's a 2. If you were to take the bottom side of this card, it's a 5. So that would mean you have received or earned 5 bamboo or 2 bamboo, depending on which side of the card you take. Alright, so that's what the cards look like. This is the grid laid out. Once you've laid out the grid, you're going to place the 4 identities or characters that the players are going to be taking. You're going to place those onto the grid like this. The panda, Bambooda himself, is going to be placed in the upper left-hand corner. The brick is going to be placed on the 3rd card of that top row. The dragon coin is going to be placed on the 2nd card of the 2nd row, and then the gold bar is going to be placed on the 4th card of that row. All right, once the grid is set up with the identities on it, you're going to determine a start player. If you cannot determine a start player amicably, am I saying that right? All right, you've got the dice here. So you're going to roll the dice. Whoever rolls the highest becomes the start player. If you roll a panda symbol, that is considered high. All right, once you've determined your start player, you're going to take the 4 colored cubes, or the start player is going to take the 4 colored cubes into their hand, mix them up, and pull one out at random. Optionally, he could use the cloth bag, place all of the cubes into there, and pull one out at random. We found that because the cubes are so small, sometimes they get lost or stick in the bag, and it's just a little more cumbersome than just using your hand and passing them around. All right, whichever method you choose, you're going to pull 1 cube out. The start player will take on the identity associated with that color. So I have pulled out purple. The next player to your left and continuing around clockwise is going to do the same thing. So now there are 3 colored cubes. They're going to take those into their hand, pull one out, and that is their identity. That's going to continue around until all players have done so. If you're playing a 2 or 3 player game, the last player is going to have multiple colors to choose from. If black has not been selected by the time the last player receives the cubes, he must select black. He doesn't pull it out at random, he just takes black. And the reason for that is black corresponds to Bambooda, the panda, and on every move, somebody must take on the role of Bambooda. All right, once you've assigned identities to every player, the player who is playing as Bambooda for this move will take the punchboard tokens, the panda and the square punchboard tokens, and secretly select either tops or bottoms. Tops is going to be represented by the panda face, bottoms by the panda silhouette. And the way you can remember that is the bottom of every card has a panda silhouette that looks exactly like the panda silhouette here. Alright, so the player playing Bambooda is going to choose tops or bottoms, secretly make his selection. If he chooses tops, he's going to place the panda face up, and then cover that selection with the square token, making sure nobody else sees his selection. Alright, now at this point, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. Alright, at this point, play proceeds as follows. The turn order is set every round or every move, and it goes in this order. Yellow is going to go first, purple is going to go second, red is going to go third, and black is going to go last. Yellow corresponds to the gold brick, purple corresponds to the dragon, red corresponds to the brick. I may have said brick for the gold, but I meant gold bar. And then black corresponds to Bambooda. So that's going to be the turn order every time. Now, so the first player to go is yellow, the gold bar. He's going to make a move to one of the 4 adjacent cards surrounding him in the up, down, left, or right direction. Whenever you can't make a move in any direction because you're on the edge of the grid, you can move to the opposite side of the board. So gold bar can move up, down, left, or jump to the opposite side. The way that works for brick is he can move left, right, down, and since he can't move up, he can jump to the opposite side there. All right, every player is going to move onto a card, like I said. If any identity has not been selected, because you're playing with less than 4 players, you're just going to skip that identity for this turn and move on. So red wasn't selected, so we're going to skip that player. So next to move is the dragon, so he will move here, and then finally the panda will move. All right, at this point, if a player has jumped onto a card with his corresponding resource, so for this example, the dragon jumped from this card to this card. The card he jumped onto contains a dragon in the middle. Whenever this happens, he can immediately take the card and take whichever side of the card he wants. So he could choose the blue 4 or the yellow 3. He'll immediately place that in front of him. Everyone who did not jump onto a card with their particular resource on it must wait for Bambooda's selection. And Bambooda's selection is revealed after everyone has moved. So he reveals that he indeed chose tops. And so what everyone will do is take the card they are on, place it top side up in front of them. So the gold bar, the player who was playing the gold bar, got a blue 5. The player who was playing Bambooda got a purple 5. All right, so there's a little bit of social deduction here. If you, whenever you see who's playing as Bambooda, you can kind of think to yourself about which side they might choose, tops or bottoms, whatever's going to help them, and then you can make your turn or move accordingly. All right, once everybody has collected the card from in front of them, you're going to replace the card from the deck and just place it where the cards were removed from. And then you're going to pretty much repeat that process 6 times. So there's going to be 6 moves. So the next player becomes the start player. They select whatever color they select, and play continues like so. All right. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that you're going to be collecting cards with a color, both a color and a number on them. Whenever you collect 2 cards of the same color, so let's suppose this player has collected a blue 4 and a blue 3 because they received this side of the card one time and this side of the card another time. Once you collect 2 cards of the same color, you have to immediately discard the higher valued card. So he's going to have to get rid of the blue 4, keeping the blue 3. There are 5 colors in the game, and there are 6 turns, so this is guaranteed to happen for every player at some point, but the key is to minimize the damage here and try to collect all 5 different colors so that you've got 5 bids in the second phase. Alright, so at the end of this phase, every player is going to have up to 5 cards in front of him. These 5 cards are going to be used as his 5 bids in the second phase. Sometimes you may not collect all 5 cards because you were forced into moves that you didn't want to have to take, and while that's not a impossible obstacle to overcome, it does hinder you somewhat in the second phase. All right. You think I've thoroughly explained phase 1, video taker? I'm getting a nod. Okay, so we're going to move on to phase 2 now. All right. Every player is going to have several cards in front of him. So let me set that up a little bit. All right. So every card that is not a bid is going to go back into the deck to be used in the second phase. We're going to set the colored cubes aside. We're going to set the 4 identity components aside. We're going to set the tokens aside, and then we're going to set the dice up like this. We're going to set the panda face dice up on top. We're going to set the panda silhouette dice here on bottom, with the panda's right side up. All right, let me just give some players some cards here. All right, so what we're going to do now is transition into an auction phase. These cards right here are set up as bids. When you're playing with actual players, these will be in the player's hands, so that they're sort of hidden. Other players can't see what bids they have in their hands and what bid they're bidding, but they're just representing bids right now. All right. So now what the start player is going to do is draw 2 cards off the top of the deck. Okay, this is going to be the same start player who began phase 1. He or she is going to draw 2 cards off the top of the deck, and they're going to place them in rows alongside the 2 dice that we've set up. All right, so they have the option of placing 1 on the top row and 1 on the bottom row, or both on the top row or both on the bottom row. Okay, it's completely their choice where they place the cards. All right, after this, play is going to pass to the next player clockwise around, and they have the option to do the same thing. Draw 2 cards and place them however they want in the top or the bottom row. They also, at this point, have the option to call for an auction. One second, please. All right, so let me just go over those 2 options a little more in detail. All right, we've said that the player can draw 2 cards and add them to the rows, or they may call for an auction. Whenever they draw 2 cards, they can add them to whatever row they choose. Whenever they call for an auction, they are going to receive the punch board token. All right, much like in the first phase, the player who calls for an auction gets to choose tops or bottoms. Again, tops is the panda face, bottoms is the panda silhouette. His choice is going to determine which row everybody is bidding on. However, he's the only player who knows what row everybody is bidding on. All right, the bids start with the player to his left. That player can choose to either bid 1 card and exactly 1 card face down in front of them, or they may choose to pass. And play continues around until it gets back to the player who called for the auction. The player who called for the auction has to bid. They can bid their highest card or their lowest card or any card in between, but they have to make a bid. They cannot pass. All right, once all the players have had the opportunity to bid, all the bids are revealed, and the highest bid will take the row that the player who called for the auction chose. So if the player called for the bottoms to be chosen, the player who had the winning bid takes the bottoms. They have no choice in which row they take. They may have had some sort of idea or inkling of what the player chose, but they can't know for sure until that choice is revealed. All right, so one thing you may be wondering is how ties are broken. If 2 people bid a 5, priority takes place like this. The player to the right of the player who called for the auction breaks ties. He is the, if he didn't take place in the bid, then it goes around to the right until it gets back to the player who called for the auction. All right, that's described in the rule book, so I feel assured you will be able to figure that out. All right. Now let me talk a little bit about drawing the cards. So if no auction is called and players continue to choose to draw cards, they continue to lay them out in the rows here. A player may end up drawing the third resource, so in this example, there is 1 gold bar, 2 gold bars, 3 gold bars. Once the third of any resource has been drawn, so 3 bricks, 3 gold bars, 3 dragons, or 3 pandas, once the third resource has been drawn, that the auction is considered to be automatically invoked, and the player who drew the third resource is considered to have busted the deck. What that means is they can't take place in the auction. The token passes to the player to his left, and then basically the auction works in the exact same way. Players go around bidding. However, the only exception is that nobody is forced into bidding in a case where an auction was automatically invoked. If nobody ends up bidding, the cards, all the cards that were out here are pretty much exiled or completely removed for the game. You can place them in the magnetic deck box so you don't get them confused with the discard pile or anything like that. Alright, so you're going to repeat this process, going through the auction, going through calling the auction, going through drawing cards. You're going to repeat this process until everybody has used all of their bids. Okay. Now, what you're bidding on out here are cards that are going to be used to build your temple. Alright, so let's suppose you bid, you win this row. What you've got are 2 cards that have a brick on them. They're going to be used for building your brick layer, and 1 card with a gold bar on it. That card can be used for building your gold bar, or your gold layer of your temple. Alright, so a temple is going to look something like this. A completed temple, that is. So you're going to have 4 bricks on the bottom. You're going to have 3 gold bars here. You're going to have then 2 dragons. And then you're going to have a panda up on top. Alright, so this would be a completed pyramid. It's got 4, 3, 2, 1. It's got every card possible in the pyramid. As you're collecting and accruing cards to be used in your pyramid, you can start arranging them however you think best fits your strategy and best fits what you're trying to do. And they can be rearranged at any time up through the end of the game. Alright, the way scoring works is every card, if you'll come in a little closer, every card is going to have a value. The value of that card is going to be the lesser of the 2 numbers on it. So this card would be worth 2 because 2 is smaller than 5. This card would be worth 1 because it's got a 1 and a 6 on it. Every card, therefore, is going to be worth 1 through 3 points. And you're going to add up all the points you've earned this way, and that's going to be one of the 3 components to your score. The second component of your score is going to be based on how many layers you've completed. By completing all 4 layers, you get a 10-point bonus. By completing only 3 layers, you get a 6-point bonus, and so on as described in the rule book. The final way to earn additional points is by connecting a bunch of cards together with the same color. So in this pyramid, you might arrange it like this to get a bunch of blues together. So this pyramid would be considered to have 6 blue chambers connected. This card has 2 blue chambers, this card is connected to it, it has 2 more, and then these 2 cards each have 1 chamber for 6 blue chambers. You could create another light colored chamber by doing 3 purples, actually 4 purples, now that I take a look. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. You're going to add up all the light colored chambers you have as described in the rule book and add that to your score. That's going to be the 3 components to your score. Now, there is a way to lose points, and that is by wastefully collecting extra cards of your temple. So if you collected all these cards, but you also had an additional gold bar that can't be used in your temple, you're going to lose the point value of that card. So this one has a 6 and a 1, so it's worth 1. You're going to deduct 1 from your score at the end of the game. Okay, so that's the way scoring works. And there is one more thing to mention at this point. as you're completing your temple, the first player to complete every layer receives a bonus for that layer. So the first player to complete the brick layer receives the brick. The first player to complete the gold bar layer, or the gold layer, receives the gold bar. First player to complete the dragon layer receives the dragon coin, and the first player to complete the panda layer by getting one panda card receives Bambooda, who comes to reside in his temple. All right. The reason these are called bonuses is they have like bonus powers that you can use. The player who has the brick token can use that as a one-time use token to block a card from being taken in an auction. The player who has the gold bar can use that as a one-time use token to basically buy a card independent from an auction as it comes out. The player who has the dragon token, what that can do for him is at the end of the game, if he has any incomplete layers, it is considered to complete a layer for him. Now you can't actually get a layer bonus by using the dragon. So let's say you were the first to get the dragon layer, you got the dragon token, you can't complete your brick layer with that, but for scoring purposes, that layer is considered to be completed. All right, and then the panda, since he is the one imposing the waste tax on your temple, he can take away one card worth of waste. So in this example, we had a 1 deducted from our score. The panda would be able to take that away. And really, I feel like that was a lot more wordy than it needed to be. I feel like it's relatively simple. Collect bamboo. Use that bamboo to build yourself a temple and score points. That's Bambooda. All right.